Marketers even have a name for this trend. They call it kids getting older, younger.
Where's Carla?
Meet the go-to girl of the fashion world, you.
The natural developmental urge is to be older, more mature, faster. No one who is 17 reads 17 magazine. It's the 10 and 12 and 13-year-olds who are reading it to understand what it's like to be 17. What is happening is that marketing is taking advantage of that natural urge and selling down to lower and lower age groups.
Manicure and pedicure parties are a big hit for 5-year-olds like Talia.
Aren't these gorgeous?
And why wouldn't girls as young as the age of 6 buy cosmetics? Experts say their role models aren't teachers, astronauts, or doctors. Instead, it's the teen idols they're attracted to.
And nothing points to the industry infatuation with age compression more than its invention of the tween.
Club Libby Lou caters to tween girls, like Shelby celebrating her 10th birthday with friends. And afterwards,
look at this. This is so cute.
Showing mom what a tween girl wants.
It's like bling bling.
And that's just what a CEO wants.
There's a lot of little girls out there, and they have a lot of buying power.
Tween. In between. In between what? I don't know. I don't know what's before tween, because the bottom end of tween is constantly getting younger. It used to be, I believe, 8 to 12, and now it's 6 to 12, and it can get 4 to 12.
And this gives you a clue to some of the perverted thinking that's going on in this field. The idea that a 6-year-old is no longer a child, but is between childhood and adolescence.
Express yourself, girl, let it all hang out. Just do your thing, ain't nothing to worry about.
One of the crucial aspects of this trend is that marketers never communicate their adult messages and values to kids simply as kids, but as boys and as girls.
And girls are being taught they need to be pretty, sexy, and what they buy determines their value, and how they look determines their value.
It's true that to some extent, advertisers have always appealed to girls at this level.
Barbie, you're beautiful.
But there can be little doubt that something radically different has emerged over the past few years.
It's my scene, my bling, bling, bling.
The new My Scene, My Bling Bling girls are here. Nice bling. Here, wear my ring. Ooh, sparkly.
You see now dolls with highly sexualized outfits and themes marketed to 6-year-olds.
I go to visit preschools, and I'll see 4-year-old girls in what I often call crotch skirts, modeled after Bratz dolls.
That's so cute.
I would seriously wear that.
Thanks. Be Bratz. Be love.
While one part of you cognitively may be able to accept belly shirts when you're 7 years old, are you emotionally mature enough to handle the outcome when you go out in public and people look at you like, an underage Britney Spears?
And with boys, we see the same pattern. While to some degree marketers have long targeted boys with what would seem to be adult messages that equate being a man with aggression and toughness and violence, today's boys are immersed in an altogether different world.
Fire! Exciting!
With boys, what we see is the use of images of violence, power, domination at very young ages.
With video games, for example, we went from 16-bit to 32-bit to 64-bit to 128-bit technology in about 5 years. What that means is that we're getting closer and closer to virtual reality.
The amount of violence, entertainment violence, that young children are exposed to is startling. They're getting a message that when you have conflicts, you fight with violence, that you have to fight in order to resolve your differences. That's what you do. And that watching violence is fun.
What the hell is that? What the hell is that?
It's entertaining.
Federal Trade Commission report that came out looking at the marketing of media to children showed that indeed the media industry was marketing material to children that even their own rating systems said were too young for that material.
The studios confirmed to Congress today that children as young as 9 years old were tested for their reactions to R-rated violent movies.
Clearly, there were times during the period discussed in the FTC report when we allowed competitive zeal to overwhelm sound judgment and appropriate standards.
So the very people who are making the product are telling you what's appropriate for kids. And there has been a shift in the space of a decade of one full ratings point. So what was an R-rated movie is now a PG-13. They don't use child development experts in deciding this, and the questions they ask are not, is this okay for kids? It is, would parents let kids of a certain age watch this?
I still masturbate to Pam.
Greg?
Look at those boobs. Man, I just want to lather them up with soap and just...
One thing that happened when the movie studios tightened up on letting kids into R movies was that the sexual content, drug content, alcohol, tobacco, profanity, adult content migrated into the PG-13 movies. So they're a lot more like what R movies used to be.
And a Hollywood movie that's rated for older viewers, PG-13 or R, has a whole line of toys and products marketed to children 3, 4, and 5 years old.
New Itsy Bitsy Spider-Man.
Despite growing concerns about the industry's explicit strategy of age compression, its drive to reach kids at younger and younger ages has only accelerated. The result is a massive and growing toddler industry that almost from the womb now blankets babies in brands.
It's really hard to find baby paraphernalia that's not plastered with media characters. You can find unbranded baby stuff, but you can find it in high-end toy stores. But if you go to places where poorer middle-class families shop, it's all branded. So the babies start out life with the notion of consumption. And that's not an accident. What they want is cradle-to-grave brand loyalty. That's what they talk about, share of mind. They talk about owning children for life.
Norman Feeney, Pepsi drinker for life.
There's been this recognition, apparently, that children as young as 6 months of age can recognize brands. So now, if they can recognize brands, we've got to make sure that they recognize our brand. The marketer is interested in getting to that child at the very, very beginning to begin to shape that child's worldview, to begin to shape that child's brand preferences, to begin to basically tell the child, in a sense, what that child needs in order to have a meaningful life. And that's where we see, as mothers, that's our job. It's not theirs.